Alrighty, yo, what is going on, everybody? It's your boy, Mr. DDG94 here, back with another reaction video. Today we're finna react to what happened to black sitcoms. This should be an interesting video. Without further ado, let's get right into it.
There was a time when black sitcoms weren't just a part of television, they were television. On any given week throughout the late 1980s and the entire 1990s, all the way to the early 2000s, you could flip through the channels and find a black family making millions of people laugh. There was the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air that appeared on NBC, Martin and Living Single that appeared on Fox. You then had Moesha, The Parkers and Girlfriends that appeared on UPN. Then followed the Jamie Foxx Show, the Wayans Brothers and the Steve Harvey Show that appeared on Warner Brothers. Then if that wasn't enough, we had My Wife and Kids, 101 and so much more. For 2 decades, black sitcoms were practically everywhere. They weren't just niche shows that were exclusively made for black audiences. They became mainstream hits, watched by millions of people across the globe every single week. Absolutely. They launched careers, they created fashion trends, introduced unforgettable catchphrases, and influenced sitcoms that came long after they all ended. But if you turned on network television lately, if you still do that, you've probably noticed something. That era is completely gone. It's non-existent. Today, black sitcoms are surprisingly rare. Instead of dozens airing every week, we only have a handful. So, the question I want to try and answer today is what happened to the black sitcoms? Did the audience just simply lose interest? Did Hollywood stop making them? Or is the answer much more complicated than that? Because the story of black sitcoms isn't just about television. It's about race, corporate decisions, changing technology, and how one of television's most successful genres slowly disappeared overnight. Let's talk. Yes, my people, welcome back to the Let's Talk H YouTube channel. My name is Henry. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode, guys. Thoroughly appreciate it as always. Listen, you could be doing anything in this world right now, but you've decided to spend a few minutes of your day, a few minutes of your time hearing me ramble and watching one of my videos. So listen, I don't take that for granted. Trust me. Guys, before we get into the actual video, please do me a small favor, just a small favor. Promise you it doesn't cost a penny. Please like the video, please share the video, please comment on the video, please hype the video, and most importantly, if you like what you see, if you like what you hear, then please don't hesitate to subscribe to the Let's Talk H YouTube channel. Why wouldn't you want to be a part of this community? Because listen, let me tell you, if you ain't, or if you don't want to, I'm officially classifying you as a hater. You understand? I just appreciate the viewership. If you're not a hater, then please do. But the least you can do, guys, is give me a like, follow, share, and a hype. And let's get straight into this one, because you see this topic right here, I'm telling you, man, it means so much to me. But when I was actually crafting this video and when I was making my notes and doing all of my research like I do, I just had a big smile on my face. This was a very big part of my childhood. In today's episode, I'm going to be talking about the rise and fall of black sitcoms, and I'm also going to be getting into what really happened to black sitcoms. And just before obviously I get into it, I just want to make a public announcement, right? Listen, I know that black sitcoms, probably 98% of them came out of the US, so that's what I'm predominantly going to be focusing on right now. I'm going to be focusing on black sitcoms that have come out of the US. But listen, I am
was there any other place you was gonna go with this? Because all the classics came from here, bro. Of course. No offense, bruv. No offense, bruv. But was there really any other options? I'll just say.
Not, ignorant. I know that in the UK, for example, you had a couple black sitcoms. We're talking about the likes of the Fosters, that's an old school one. Probably the most celebrated UK black sitcom. We've got the Desmonds, right? Which a lot of people say is like the UK's version to the Cosby Show. So guys, let's get things started, right? Right now, I'm going to be taking it way back. I'm going to be talking about before the black sitcom boom happened. Before we can understand why black sitcoms disappeared, we have to understand how revolutionary they were in the first place. For most of television history, black families were almost invisible. During the 1950s and the 1960s, American television overwhelmingly centered white suburban families. When black actors did appear, they were often limited to side characters, servants, or stereotypes. Networks believed that shows centered around black families wouldn't attract large audiences. Now, it wasn't necessarily because viewers rejected those stories.
Yes, they did.
Television executives assumed they would. Now, that assumption began to change in the early 1970s. Having done some research, there was a producer named Norman Lear. Hope that I'm getting that second name.
Man, fuck that nigga, man. Fuck that nigga. He stole all these shows. All these shows you about to name, he stole. He stole the Good Times, the Jeffersons. He stole all of them shits.
That's racist. That's racist. That's racist.
Fuck that nigga, man. He rest in shit.
Come on now, dog. Come on, man.
Right? Who helped transform American television.
Ain't right now one show
willing to tackle race, poverty, politics, and class. Looking back on a lot of historical events that have happened in the past, I've realized, right, one of the patterns that I've realized is there's always that one person, that one white person, right, especially in American history, right, that appears to be the staple of change, that sticks their neck out on the line to allow black talent, black creatives to shine. Yeah, I did.
Yeah, he got them on television, but he ain't write none of this shit. And then the writers that wrote it, he fucked them over. He fucked them over and took over their shows and made profit and never gave them their proper due. Never gave them anything. You know, the creator of Good Times, you know, he was homeless for quite some time. Yeah. Fuck this nigga, bruh.
Know about this Norman Lear guy before, but like I said, man, shout out to him. Now, shows like Sanford and Son, Good Times, and The Jeffersons placed black family at the center of American television for the very first time. For many viewers, these shows offered something they'd rarely seen before. Black families who were funny, complicated, loving, successful, flawed, and most importantly, human. None of these series at the time were perfect. And I think during those times, right, they had been criticized for sometimes relaying on exaggerated stereotypes, but they ended up proving something that Hollywood couldn't ignore. Black-led sitcoms could attract huge audiences. Now guys, this is where things really began to change, and there was one show in particular that inflicted that change. Can you have a little guess what that was? I mean, I'll give you like a small guess. The leading star is currently in prison right now. You know who it is? Now, let's talk about the
Man, Bill Cosby ain't in prison no more.
Cosby effect. Then came the show that changed everything, The Cosby Show. It premiered in 1984. It became one of the biggest television hits of the decade. For several years, it was the highest rated show in America. When you think about it, it's crazy. There was like a non-existent factor of black sitcom.
I heard Bill Cosby was a dickhead behind the scenes. The more I hear about people who used to work with Bill Cosby, they say, oh, I appreciate him giving me a shot and all that, but he was a dickhead behind the scenes. I remember one woman, she asked for the lady that would go on to make a living single. She asked this nigga for payment. She was like, I'm doing all the creative work. I can't get payment. Pay that woman 94 cents. Get that woman 94 cents.
Hey, yo, what the fuck?
Bill Cosby ain't shit either. Fuck him too.
You know, just a few years before, and now it becoming the highest rated show in America. The Huxtables weren't portrayed as poor or struggling. Cleve Huxtable was a doctor. Claire Huxtable was a lawyer. Their children dealt with everyday family problems rather than stories centered entirely around or on racism. For decades, television executives assumed audiences would only accept black characters in certain roles. They tried to pigeon them within a certain stereotype. Now, The Cosby Show absolutely shattered that assumption. Whether people still watch the show today is complicated because of Bill Cosby's crimes, but that doesn't take away from the impact that the Bill Cosby Show had on America, let alone Black America. And separating the show's historical impact from Cosby's personal legacy is important when discussing television history.
I mean, I'm not going to sit up here and deny that the Cosby Show was the Cosby Show wasn't important, because it was. If it wasn't for the Cosby Show, I don't think shows like Fresh Prince and Martin would have broke through like they would have, like they eventually did.
success fundamentally changed how networks viewed black programming. Suddenly, black sitcoms weren't considered a risk, they were considered an opportunity. So guys, I want to move on to talking about the golden age or the golden era of black sitcoms. In the late 1980s and especially the 1990s and also a bit of the early 2000s, let's not forget the early 2000s as well, right? This era became the golden age of black sitcoms. Networks were actively competing to create the next big hit. NBC had The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Fox built an entire identity around shows like Martin and Living Single.
And then once they got their shows off the ground, they pretty much hit the ball and started running and said, fuck black sitcoms. We ain't doing no more black sitcoms. Well, what about this Bernie Mac guy? He seems pretty funny. You know what? Let him through. Let him through. We'll let that Bernie Mac guy through. But the rest of y'all, we ain't doing no more.
Parkers, Girlfriends, and Half. The Warner Brothers network featured the Jamie Foxx show, the Steve Harvey show, and the Wayans brothers. Every network wanted black viewers. But something interesting happened within this time frame. White audiences watched these shows too. The Fresh Prince wasn't just popular amongst black households. It became a cultural phenomenon. Martin's physical comedy made him one of the biggest comedians of the decade. Family Matters transformed Steve Urkel into one of the most recognizable television characters.
And to be fair, this is the most popular black sitcom out of all of them, if we being honest. Is it the best one? No, but it's the most popular one because white people love Urkel. Everybody, white people can relate to it. It's like, yeah, I can relate to Urkel. I feel just like Urkel, man. Yeah, man. Urkel's cool, man.
In history, these weren't just black shows. They were simply hit shows. And perhaps the most important thing about this era was variety. There were so many different shows that were being championed. There were so many different shows that were being brought to the forefront. Also, not every black family looked the same. The Banks family represented wealth. The Winslows were middle class. Martin focused on young professionals. Living Single centered independent black women navigating careers and relationships. The Wayans brothers leaned into absurd comedy. There wasn't just one definition of black life. There were dozens. And I also want to quickly shed some light on what I am calling like a second era or a second wave of the golden age of black sitcoms, which happened in the early 2000s. Now, you can say that it happened on a much lower scale, and this is where sort of the decline started to happen, but there was still a stronghold on black sitcoms during the early 2000s, right? Black sitcoms in the 2000s flourished primarily on the UPN and the WB networks. You know, that era, the transition from the traditional 1990s family multi.
Brother, by the 2000s, everything was on UPN. I hate to tell you, brother, but everything was on UPN at that point. You only had like one black show on each channel. WB gave up on black shows. They said, we got Dawson's Creek, Supernatural, and One Tree Hill. Yeah, get that nigger shit up out of here. Yeah, we don't need it anymore. Yeah.
Sitcom format to include more relationship-driven comedies, workplace shows, and critically acclaimed semi-autobiographical single-cam series. For the majority of the 2000s, UPN and the WB network served as primary destinations for black-led programming that hosted fan favorites like The Parkers, All of Us, My Wife and Kids, Half and Half, EVE, Everybody Hates Chris, One on One. I mean, guys, come on. That is a strong roster. And you can also mix, you know, kind of Disney Channel in there as well. You know, had the likes of That's So Raven. The early 2000s was strong, right? It was strong. And I remember, obviously, you know, me being in the UK, we were fortunate to have a television channel called Trouble TV. Who remembers Trouble TV? In the comment section, yo, large up Trouble. If you don't know what Trouble was a subscription television channel operating in the UK, and it was, you know, owned by Virgin Media Network. Trouble used to show all of the black sitcoms in the early 2000s that I've just listed off there. Honestly, that used to be like my favorite TV channel. I used to rich Trouble every single day. That network, especially for us UK kids, that network is in the Hall of Fame. So guys, something changed, and that change came in the early 2000s, and almost everything changed at once. The first reason was economics. Sitcoms were expensive. You needed writers, sets, actors, multiple cameras, rehearsals, large production crews. However, reality TV didn't. Shows like Survivor, American Idol, and countless dating shows delivered massive ratings while costing far less to produce. What naturally happens, especially like in TV, in film, in the creative industry in general, executives tend to follow the money. Then came another major blow. In 2006, UPN and the WB merged into one network, which was called CW. This merger eliminated dozens of programming slots. Many black sitcoms disappeared almost immediately. Instead, the CW shifted towards teen dramas. Shows like Gossip Girl, 90210, The Vampire Diaries, Supernatural. Networks weren't necessarily abandoning black audiences intentionally. They were chasing younger demographics and advertisers. But the result was the same. The television home that had supported many black sitcoms no longer existed. And this probably explains why My Wife and Kids, for example, ended so abruptly. I was so vexed when My Wife and Kids ended, especially the way it ended as well. It just ended on a cliffhanger. I honestly thought, because obviously back then I wasn't privy to all of this information. I thought, you know what, yes, it's ended on a cliffhanger. The next season's going to be lit. And there's so many different angles that they could go with this. And then I found out My Wife and Kids was abruptly cut. And honestly, man, I'm still pissed off to this very day about that. I don't know about you, but I'm still pissed off. And obviously now I'm privy to the information. This probably explains why it was cut so abruptly. Still doesn't make me feel any better though, by the way. Now listen, if the merger wasn't already a blow, right? This was probably the final nail in the coffin, right? And I'm talking about streaming. Streaming changed everything. Then Netflix arrived, followed by Hulu, Amazon, Disney Plus, HBO Max. Damn, like we've got so many streaming platforms now, like it's kind of even hard to keep up. Audiences stopped watching the same shows. Instead of just watching one sitcom, everyone watched something different. Streaming also changed storytelling. Traditional sitcoms slowly gave way to shorter seasons and more cinematic dramas. Shows like Atlanta, Insecure, The Vince Staples Show blurred the line between comedy and drama. Not to take away from any of those shows, because those shows are brilliant, especially like Atlanta and Insecure, two of my favorite black-led shows of the last 10 to 15 years. But they are very different to the family sitcoms that dominated the 1990s. And listen, let's not get it twisted, right? Because I don't want it to seem like black sitcoms have completely evaporated, because that's factually not true. Yes, we had the golden period of the late 80s, the 90s, and the early 2000s. But listen, over the last 10 to 15 years, man, there's still been some black sitcoms about. I named a few of them, just a few minutes ago. But there's also been the likes of Blackish, which became really popular.
Nobody watch that shit.
Abbott Elementary and The Upshaws. These shows in particular have been launched within the last 5 to 10 years, and they've all done pretty well. But obviously, it's not at the volume as compared to how it was back in the day. So guys, just to sum up, black sitcoms didn't disappear because audiences stopped caring. They disappeared because television simply changed. Just like with most things in life. It sucks, but it's true. Network television lost its dominance. Streaming fragmented audiences. Reality TV became cheaper and more popular. Corporate mergers eliminated programming spaces, and the business model that once supported dozens of sitcoms, especially black sitcoms, simply faded away. Yet their legacy lives on. Without shows like The Jeffersons, simply put, there might not have been The Cosby Show. Without Living Single, many argue that there would be no Friends to go along with it. There would not be a blueprint for many comedic performers. Without The Fresh Prince, Will Smith might have not become one of Hollywood's biggest stars. Black sitcoms shaped American culture far beyond the target audience. And not just American culture, by the way, right? It had a worldwide effect. They gave viewers stories that were brilliant, heartfelt, and deeply human. And while today's television landscape looks completely different, the impact of those shows continues to influence writers, actors, comedians, and creators all around the world. Maybe the golden age is over, or maybe it's simply waiting for the next generation. So guys, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode, man.
We need a black network, man. That's all we need. We need a black network with billions of dollars that can be invested in the shows. Start off with 3 major hit shows, then follow it up with backdoor pilots that lead into other shows. We can get this thing popping, boy. Fuck you mean? But anyways, though.
appreciate it. Listen, I could have gone on and on and on and on. I didn't even mention some shows again that were hugely popular. Obviously, I can only get in so much. Big shout out to obviously Sister as well. I was a big fan of Sister, Keenan and Kel, even though that wasn't really a sitcom, but I just have to give it a shout out anyway, man.
It was a sitcom, brother. What you talking about?
Man, we just have to, like I said, treasure our black sitcoms wherever we can. Let's continue to watch these shows. I know that, you know, some of these shows are on some of these streaming platforms like Netflix, Disney, Hulu. Let's continue to pass those shows down to our kids, our younger cousins, our younger siblings, because these shows, let me tell you, they will never die. They will constantly live on. That just goes to show you how historic these shows actually were. One of the most underrated things that I love about black sitcoms, and I want you guys to share what you love about black sitcoms as well, yeah, but one of the underrated things and underappreciated things that I loved about black sitcoms, like back in the day, you know, at its peak, was just the star-studded guest appearances. Listen, you could be watching Fresh Prince, you could be watching My Wife and Kids, you will see, right, an appearance from the likes of Michael Jordan, Tupac, Biggie. I mean, the list, it just goes on and on and on. And this used to happen just on a normal episode. Do you get what I'm saying? It wasn't no Z-list celebrities. It wasn't any influencers. It wasn't none of that. No social media stars. It was real A-listers, real celebrities. And most of the time, they always added something special to that particular episode. And we had it different back in the day. I don't care what nobody says. Black sitcoms were special. And that's just one of the thousands of reasons that I can think of as to why. So guys, let me know what you thought about this in the comment section below. Let me know what your favorite, you know, black sitcom was as well, man. I know, listen, I've got many, bro. I can't even lie. I can't even give you a favorite because I've got many. But guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hype the video as well. And I'll be back again real soon with another one.
Alrighty, man. It's just gonna about do it for this one, most definitely, man. Like I said, $1 billion network that pretty much says we're gonna do black content. Like I said, 3 hit shows, backdoor pilot for all 3 of those shows, continue them on. You know what I'm saying? And then keep the ball rolling, man. The money make itself, dog. But I digress though. But anyways, though, that's just gonna about do it for this one. I'll see y'all the next video. Till then, this.